Okay, there's our announcement, and I'm going to switch over and share screens. All right. So this is the beginning of the How to Ride the Bus virtual training. As I mentioned, I'm Kelly Schneider. I'm the Johnson County Mobility Coordinator. I'm here at the Johnson County Health and Human Services building just south of downtown in Iowa City. I've got my contact information up on the screen. As the mobility coordinator, I help connect people with transportation resources in our area. So that can look like learning how to use the bus, like we'll talk about today, applying for the different discounts, using transit technology, or figuring out what your trip would look like riding the bus. On the menu for today, we have a couple of different topics. We're going to do an overview of public transit in Johnson County. Well, that will include where to find bus information. Then we'll start talking about discounts, passes, fares, transfers, where to buy bus passes. We'll then get into how to use paper bus schedules and actual elements of riding the bus. And then for the very last portion, we'll talk about the different transit technologies. One more housekeeping item, in addition to verbally communicating your questions, you're also welcome to utilize the chat feature as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to hear from Shanae first, who's going to give us the overview of public transportation in Johnson County.
Thank you, Kelly. Hi, everybody. So we're first going to talk about just an overview of all the public transit options that we offer here in Johnson County. So public transit in Johnson County looks like having a fixed route system that serves urban areas and also a demand response service that serves folks in the rural parts of Johnson County. So the fixed route service is serviced by CAN-BUS, which, by the way, is available for free to the general public, as well as Coralville Transit and then Iowa City Transit. The demand response service is serviced by Johnson County Seats, which is available for anyone in Johnson County who cannot be serviced by the fixed route. Finally, there's also ADA Paratransit. And ADA Paratransit has options for folks with mental and physical disabilities. Any person with a disability that prevents them from riding, boarding, etc., can apply to use the specialized service with the ADA Paratransit. These options include Seats, which Coralville and Iowa City Transit use, as well as the CAN-BUS Bionic Bus. Anybody that is affiliated with the university and that has a disability can go ahead and ride the Bionic Bus. And that's just like a brief overview of the transit options in Johnson County. Next, we can move on to looking at this map here. So this map is color-coded to help give us an idea of which systems serve where. The circles are arbitrary here, but they offer a rough estimate of the areas covered. It's important to keep in mind that there is a lot of overlap between these systems, and it's pretty common for folks to use multiple systems to make their trips. These systems work together to ensure that riders can get from point A to point B. So from looking at this map, we can see that the green area, like areas in Tiffin or Salone, can be serviced by Johnson County Seats. So if you live anywhere in the green, you may be serviced by Seats. There's also the yellow circle, which is serviced by CAN-BUS, the red circle, which is serviced by Iowa City Transit, as well as the blue that is serviced by Coralville. Next, we can talk a little bit about the service times. So CAN-BUS is served only during the UI session. So you can see here, it's Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. And then Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. Again, there are breaks during the summer. So Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. Then there's Coralville Transit times, which are Monday through Friday, 5:35 to 12 a.m. and then Saturday, 7:15 a.m. to 8 p.m. Iowa City Transit, which is Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10:45 p.m. Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then there's Seats Rural, which is Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'd also like to affirm here that Paratransit operates at these times as well to meet the needs of folks with disabilities. We'll talk a little bit more about this within the next slides. If you guys have any questions so far, this would be a good time to ask them in the chat, or I can also take a moment and pause. All right, I'll keep looking at that chat too, just to make sure. But all right, now we can talk a little bit more about paratransit. Okay, so paratransit or ADA paratransit is a term coming from the Americans with Disabilities Act. So ADA paratransit service is a comparable transportation service required by the ADA for individuals with disabilities who are unable to ride the fixed route transportation systems. This offers a door-to-door service to folks that schedule rides in advance. The eligibility is determined by an application specific to the city you live in. So there's Coralville Transit in Iowa City, and this is contracted through Johnson County Seats. And then there's also CAMBUS, which had the internal service called the Bionic Bus, which we mentioned, and that is specifically for University of Iowa students, faculty, or staff that may have a mental or physical disability. Now we can talk a little bit more about applying for paratransit, and here are just some of the key points. Like I mentioned before, the applications are specific to the city you live in. So if you're living in North Liberty or Coralville, you would apply with Coralville Transit. If you're an Iowa City resident, you would apply with Iowa City Transit. And if you are living in University Heights, you would also apply with the city of University Heights. There's a 21-day processing period for your application. Also, it's important to explain how you cannot physically or functionally ride the fixed route bus if you are applying. And then this also needs to be verified by a physician. You can also go ahead and ask for a companion or a personal care attendant during the application if you feel that it might be beneficial for someone to ride with you. Another point to add is that anytime the fixed route buses are operating, this is again the same time that the paratransit services will operate as well. Next, we can talk a little bit about Seats, the Seats Rural service. So Seats Rural service helps serve folks in the rural communities through a door-to-door service. And looking at this map here, we can see that the gray area represents the urban areas which are served by the fixed routes. And then the green is the rural parts of Johnson County served by Seats. I can talk a little bit about the service schedule here. Monday through Friday, you can book a ride for 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. except on recognized holidays. The eligibility requirements here are that all residents of Johnson County outside the city limits of Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty, or University Heights are automatically eligible for Seats. So if you live anywhere in that green, you can be serviced by Seats. Scheduling a ride, you can call this number at 319-339-6125. You can also call a number for ride information as well as canceling a ride too. The same buses and agencies providing these paratransit services for Coralville and Iowa City are also providing rural transportation services called the demand response. Now we can talk about the fixed route bus services. Before we get into these, I'd like to also draw your attention to the image here. So looking at this image, we can see some green dots along a path. These green dots here represent bus stops going along a fixed route or a designated path of travel. The fixed route here shown is just an example of the town crest route, or the Route 9. These fixed routes we're going to talk about are going to be, again, the CAN bus, Iowa City, and Coralville systems. Here's another good visual to look at. This image here helps depict all the fixed route systems in Johnson County. We can see that star right there. That star represents the downtown interchange. And this is a pretty important part of transit because this is a common place for a lot of transfers. And then we can also see Coralville there, Iowa City, and then North Liberty right there. Next, we can talk about the hub and spoke model. So the hub and spoke model means that all the fixed routes, except for one of the IC routes, stop and finish at the downtown interchange. So we can do like an example here. Let's say that you're at City High and you'd like to get to West High. It's likely that you're going to need to have a transfer. So you may take the bus downtown, and then from downtown, you'll likely take a bus to West High. The outbound travel means that you're heading away from downtown interchange, while inbound travel means that you're heading towards the downtown interchange. We can also see a note there in the corner. It lets us know that transfers are free between Iowa City Transit and Coralville Transit. These systems, again, they work together to ensure that riders can get from point A to point B. Next, we're going to look at another visual. And this visual is actually a bird's eye view of the downtown interchange. If you remember that star from the other slide, this is just a very zoomed in picture of it. So again, not all of the buses stop here, but a good handful definitely do. CAN bus will pull in at the interchange on Clinton Street and on Washington Street. Iowa City buses are always on either side of Washington Street. It's common that if you're doing a transfer, you will likely have to walk to the corner to get to an Iowa City bus. Like I mentioned before, just know these transfers work between the systems. There are also signs on the buses and at downtown that'll let you know which side of the street your bus is departing. Yes. So again, talking about the bus stops, if you remember from the image, those green dots we saw are represented by the bus stops. So on the image we're shown here an Iowa City bus stop sign, but on the right you can take a look and see the other fixed route bus system signs. So we have Coralville, Iowa City, and then CAN bus. Circled there are the 4-digit numbers, like the stop ID, that you'll likely see if you're on the app or just looking at the sign. These are helpful for planning the trips. So it's a good idea to kind of get familiar with the stops that you'll be taking. There's also QR codes on the stops too, if you'd like to scan that and get more information. Now we can talk about where to find bus information, but let me just check the chat quick for any questions we might have. Okay, again, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself or put them in the chat. But where to find bus information? So you can find bus information on the bus. It's actually one of the best places to find information because usually Iowa City buses will have brochures on the different Iowa City transit routes. You can find these behind the driver's seat. This offers a lot of information on the different routes there are, the different schedules and the times too. So that's a great place to look. There's also the Coralville Transit number or the website that you can go ahead and access. So if you are using Coralville Transit, you can call the number at 319-248-1790 to reach customer support if you have any questions about stops or service times or transit related questions. You can also get a handful of good information on the website. You can subscribe to get notifications like emails or texts on transit-related things or services. You can also find schedules and brochures at City Hall and the library. And similar to Coralville Transit, Iowa City also has a number and a really good website you can check out. So there's the number there for Iowa City. It's 319-356-5151. Again, you can contact customer support there or reach out for any questions. You can also get information here at the Iowa City Parking and Transit Office. Bus schedules can also be accessed or seen at the City Hall or the Public Library or IC Government online. And again, you can get subscriptions and text notifications through Iowa City Transit too. Finally, there's CAN-bus. So here's a picture of CAN-bus. CAN-bus station is by the Kinnick Stadium and by the hospital. This station is actually connected to the hospital and the Skywalk, and you can find a lot of good information at the station too. There's a number for CAN-bus. It's 319-335-1475. This is definitely a good number to save if you're a student riding the CAN-bus or if you're going to the hospital. Next, we can talk about the social media. So there's a possibility that you might have found out about the training through social media. It's a great place to access a lot of information related to transit or any updates on transit. We can see here at the bottom, that's a screenshot of notification from Coralville, Iowa here, talking about any fare changes here. I encourage you to definitely follow any of these pages on social media. The Iowa City CAN-bus has a Facebook page as well as Coralville. And again, these are great places to access information too. There are also some applications you can utilize for transit. Before I go into this, I also want to just make sure that the chat is looking good. All right, so at this time, I don't think we're doing masking. Are masking mandates still in effect right now for all the transit options, Kelly?
Those have actually just ended, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, so right now masking mandates are relieved, which is crazy, but you can definitely get on the bus now without a mask. Additionally, you can get notifications and updates on different technologies and applications offered here through the application. You can get information from texting this number. You'll be subscribed if you just text the Iowa City Area Transit number. On the right here, we have some screenshots also of the transit app, which we can go more in depth about. Yeah, definitely the applications offer a lot of good insight. But now we're going to actually talk about discounts, passes, and fares and transfers from Kelly. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Shanae. That was wonderful. All right, so let's talk about the different discounts, passes, and fares. Excuse me, that are on our transit systems. And just a friendly reminder, there's no fare, and it's completely free to use the University of Iowa CAN-bus, and that's open to the general public. So when we're talking about the discounts, the passes and fares and transfers, we are specifically talking about Iowa City Transit and Coralville Transit. Okay, so let's start with the bus first. So let's talk about the different discounts that the transit systems offer. All right. So for Iowa City and University Heights residents with disabilities, there is a pass called the Iowa City Transit Disabled Bus Pass. This pass allows riders with disabilities, either physical or mental health, to ride the transit systems for free anytime. So any fixed route bus would accept this pass and would allow their riders to ride for free. To apply for this program, I have a picture of the application on the right-hand side, and it's pretty short and sweet. You just need to have a physician sign off saying that, yes, you do have a disability. The definition of disability for the purpose of this program means, with respect to an individual, a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life areas. Once you've got that application completed, you'll turn that into the 335 East Iowa Avenue office that we have pictured in the middle of the screen there. Once you turn that application in, the transit staff will provide you with the Iowa City Transit Disabled Pass. I have a picture of that on the far left side of the screen with a couple of smiley faces on it. About a year ago, this program has some limitations on when you could ride for free, and that's recently been modified so that you can ride the Iowa City Transit fixed route buses for free anytime. If you are an Iowa City Transit rider that needs to travel to Coralville, you can also show this same card and ride for free on the Coralville buses. All right, if you happen to be a Coralville or North Liberty resident, you can also apply for a very similar program. On the far right-hand side of the screen, I have a picture of the application, very similar to that one we just saw on the last screen. A physician would need to verify that the person has a disability. Once that application is completed, it can get turned into Coralville City Hall. City Hall would then issue the rider the Coralville Transit Disabled Pass, which is pictured on the left-hand side of the screen. Again, this would allow the person free transit anytime, and that could also be transferred to the Iowa City buses as well. All right, here's a couple other discounts. Any seniors that are 65 or older can also have free transit anytime on the fixed route buses. Iowa City and University Heights residents can actually just show the driver of the Iowa City Transit buses their ID. So if their ID says that they're 65 or older, they can ride for free. If there's any 65 and older Coralville or North Liberty residents, they can take their ID to the Coralville City Hall and get issued one of their senior passes, which is showed here on the screen on the top that says C-Pass. Anybody that uses Seats Paratransit can also show their Seats Paratransit card to ride the fixed route buses for free. So let's say that there's a couple of locations that are less accessible for the person with a disability. They can always use that door-to-door service, but if the preference is there, they can also use the fixed route bus. And if that's something that they'd like to do, if they show their certification card, they can ride the fixed route bus for free. We also have an opportunity for Medicare card holders to ride the buses for free anytime as well. You would just have to show your red, white, and blue Medicare card to the driver, and then you'll be able to ride for free. Any questions about the discounts before we continue on? Okay. Let's get into the general passes and fares now. Firstly, let's talk about the different locations to buy passes. All of the different Hy-Vees in Johnson County sell transit passes. So that's going to be First Avenue in Iowa City, Hy-Vee Drugstore in Iowa City, Waterfront in Iowa City, North Dodge in Iowa City, and both of the Coralville Hy-Vees. So all of those locations will sell your transit passes. You can also buy transit passes at that 335 East Iowa Avenue, Iowa City Transit Office, and then Coralville Library, City Hall, and Rec Center. There is a 31-day pass that's available for $32 for adults or $16 for youth age 5 through 18. This 31-day pass would allow unlimited rides in 31 consecutive days in a row. So you could ride the bus as many times as you desired within the 31 days of the pass. The first time that you swipe your pass is when your 31-day time period would start. If anybody in the room has any kiddos, age 5 or under, age 5 and under can ride all the buses for free as well. There's also a 10-ride pass that's available for $8.50. These passes are nice for people that aren't riding quite as regular, as they do not expire. These passes also keep track on the back how many rides you've used. So there's a stamping system that you can see on the back that tells you how many passes or how many rides are left. There's also a 24-hour pass. This is kind of a newer pass. If you're somebody that has a visitor, or maybe your car broke down, or you just want to give transit a shot, you can have 24 hours of unlimited transit rides for $2. This particular pass is sold directly from the bus drivers. So when you jump on the bus and see the driver, they can print you off the 24-hour pass, which is available for $2. You can also pay the fare directly to the driver by using a $1 bill if you're an adult, or if you're a youth, age 5 through 18, you can pay for 50 cents. You can also use 4 quarters too. You should plan to use exact change. All right. Shanae talked about earlier that it's common when you're traveling from one part of town to another that you might need to do a transfer. The example she had was riding from the east side of Iowa City, where City High is, over into the west side of Iowa City, where West High is. In the event that it takes 2 buses to complete your final one-way destination, you can ask for a transfer slip. I have the photo of the transfer slip on the bottom of the screen. The details on the back of the transfer slip shows when the transfer slip was issued and when it expires. In this particular example, the rider had just about an hour before their transfer slip expired. If a transfer is needed, you will definitely ask the driver when you board your first bus. Once you ask for the transfer slip, the driver will print that out of the fare box. You'll make sure you hang on to this ticket, because when you board the second bus, this is the pass you'll use to pay. A transfer is designed so that it only takes you one fare or one payment to get to your final one-way destination. Any questions about transfers or the other passes we spoke about? Okay. We're now going to start talking about how to use paper bus route brochures. So disclaimer, we talked about all of the information being available online. There's also customer service support lines that you can call. This is something that I can help you with. But I always think it's nice to know if the internet crashes or you run out of data on your phone. It's a good idea to know how to use the paper schedules as well. So let's go ahead and review those details. On the screen, I have a picture of each fixed routes brochures. On the far left, under the blue dot, it's going to be your Coralville Transit brochure. In the middle, we've got the University of Iowa Canvas, and then on the far right is the Iowa City. Here's a closer look at a Coralville Transit brochure. As you can see on the front here, there is that path of travel. So this is the path of travel that the Route 24 and Route 25 make. On the Coralville Transit brochures, you've got that black dashed line with the red dots indicating where the transit stops are. If you see a red star, that means that it's a time point within the path of travel. The time points are going to be listed in the columns that you see on the back of the brochure. Here is a picture of the Route 5. This is an Iowa City Transit route, which is also called Lower Muscatine Kirkwood. On the top of the brochure, you're of course going to see the name of the route and the number. Underneath of that, you can see some of the popular destinations that this route will reach. And in the pink under that, you'll see the frequency. This particular route has 20-minute frequency from the morning into the afternoon. And then on nights and Saturdays, it has 40-minute frequencies. Under that, highlighted in the purple box, you can see the general service hours and days. And then of course, underneath in the bottom, you can find that actual path of travel that the Route 5 makes. In the blue circle, I have highlighted the letter F. That's going to indicate, or excuse me, the letter 3, the number 3, that's going to indicate where the Kirkwood, Iowa City location is. If we flip over that bus route brochure, we can get all the different times that the bus is running. So since the Kirkwood Route 5 route runs so regularly, I only have displayed here for you the first portion of that brochure. So again, on the back, you're still going to have that same name and number. Underneath of that are all of the time points that are within the route. Now, something to remember here is there's a lot more stops than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns that are displayed. It's possible that your stop that you're boarding or departing from may fall in between 2 columns. Since we want to keep the brochures as compact and as possible, they only list the major time points within the route. If your stop that you're going to use falls in between 2 columns, you should pick the earlier time to make sure that you show up on time. Okay. In the brown square, I have highlighted all of the different times that the bus is going to depart the downtown interchange. So as you can see, the first bus leaves at 6 a.m. and then there's another one that departs downtown at 6:20 and then so on. So there's your 20-minute intervals there. Let's say, for example, you need to get to Kirkwood College. The time the bus arrives to Kirkwood College is displayed under column C that I have highlighted in purple. Let's pretend you're trying to arrive to a class that starts at 8:30. Oops. If you travel down the purple column or column C, the closest time to 8:30 is 8:11. I have 8:11 highlighted in the green there. If you follow over to the left, you'll see the time 8 o'clock circled in blue. This is the time you'll want to get on the bus from downtown to make it to Kirkwood in time at 8:11. I have here displayed the actual written instructions. If any of you are interested in this, we will have this training posted on my website. And then you can also download the slides from that too if you want to reference at a later date. Any questions about using the paper bus schedules? All right, we'll keep going along here. It's time to start getting on the bus. So the picture that we have on the bottom shows a person that's actually loading their bicycle on the bus. So all of the Iowa City and all of the Coralville Transit buses have room for 2 different bicycles to get loaded onto the bus. When you're waiting for the bus, it's best practice to be about 3 to 5 minutes early. I have a picture of a bus shelter here. There's quite a few stops that do have a bus shelter, but most of them do not. When you see the bus coming down the way, make sure that you wave down to the driver. You should have your payment ready and never walk in front of the bus, and keep your eye out for oncoming vehicles. If you are, the best place to enter when you're boarding the bus is going to be the front door. Have that circled in the image on the bottom in yellow. Once the bus has arrived to your stop and has come to a stop, you'll want to check the scroll. The scroll is the display above the driver that tells you what route they are in operation of. If you're somebody that needs an accessible entrance, this is when you'll want to ask the driver to do the ramp. The picture of the CAN bus on the bottom of the screen has the ramp engaged, making sure that there's no steps for a person to enter. This same section that I'm talking about can also get kind of wet or slippery in the rain or snow. So you'll see that there's all kinds of handles and rails to hang on to make sure that you can get on the bus safely. Once you jump on, if you're boarding an Iowa City or Coralville bus, you'll pay the fare, the first thing you do when you get on the bus. And also remember to ask for the driver, or ask for a transfer, excuse me. This is also a good time to introduce yourself quickly to the driver and say, hello, my name is Kelly, and I'm going to be riding the bus over to Kirkwood. All right, here's a zoomed in picture of the fare box with some color-coded circles on it. If you're somebody that's going to be paying with coins, those go into the coin slot that's circled in red. If you're paying with a dollar bill, those get slid into the yellow circle. If you have a 10 ride or 31-day ride pass, those go into the purple circle. If you have one of those disabled passes that we saw, or a senior pass, those actually get tapped into the bullseye there that's pictured in blue. When you actually board the bus, the circles won't be there. So if you're not sure what goes where, you can always ask the driver for guidance. Once you get on the bus, the front seats are reserved for elderly and disabled. Again, there's those the handrails that you can use. You'll want to take your seat and stay seated until it's time to get off. The buses also have an automated recorded system, so you can listen to the announcements about what intersections or destinations are coming. It's also a good idea to look out the windows so you can keep track of what landmarks you see going by. Once it's time, once your stop is approaching, you will pull the stop request cord. The stop request cord is the yellow cord that you see pictured here. When you pull this cord, it indicates to the driver that you're ready to get off the bus. Best practice is to pull this cord about half a block before your stop, or definitely well in advance. And this is a good question to ask the driver if you're not exactly sure where your next stop is going to be. They can provide some guidance on when to pull the cord. Once the bus comes to a complete stop, you'll want to gather your personal belongings. And if you're physically able, you should exit using the rear door. The rear door is circled in red on the image that you see. Once you get off here, if you plan to cross the street, please make sure that the bus departs first. Never walk in front of the bus. Okay, we'll take a little pause here and we're going to start doing some of the transit technology. But before we do that, anybody can unmute themselves and ask a question or drop something in the chat. Okie dokie. All right, so if you're somebody that's like me, you like to use technology. So we'll talk about all the different ways that you can get bus information and the different technology platforms that there are. Okay, first up is the Iowa City Area Transit Services. This system, which is now shortened for ICATS, used to be called BONGO. So BONGO came around several years ago. It was kind of a first of its kind and is now transitioned to a new name called ICATS. What BONGO or ICATS does is it provides live bus information for the Coralville Transit, Iowa City Transit, and University of Iowa CAN bus. There's multiple ways that you can use the ICATS system. You can use your phone, either landline or cell phone, and call the phone number 319-471-4155 and enter your 4-digit stop ID. And the automated system will reply back to you saying how quickly the bus is arriving to the stop that you entered. So if you remember back to when Shanae was talking, she talked about how each of the bus stop signs have a 4-digit number. If you enter that 4-digit number to your keypad, the automated system will reply back with how close the bus is. You can also get that same information online, and I'm going to jump off the PowerPoint and jump online and show you some of those tricks there. The website is www.icareatransit.org. If you're able to reach it, you can also scan the QR code that's on the bus stop sign. And that QR code will route you to the same information for that specific bus stop, which will tell you again how quickly the bus will arrive. You can also text the word BONGO and your stop number to the phone number 41411. That phone number will then reply back to you saying how many minutes away the bus is. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of behind the scene things that are available on the ICATS website. Shanae, can you verify that you can see the website?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. Okay, so this is the ICATS website. You can see here on the gray banner on the very top of the website, you've got a tab for the routes. So let's click on that one. Here's all of the routes that Coralville has on the first column. There's all the CAN bus routes in the middle. And all the Iowa City routes are listed here on the far right-hand corner. Each of these bullet points or routes will give you specific information for the route that you click on. So let's click on the route that Shanae and I are currently on. That's going to be South Gilbert, Route 13. All right. So by clicking on that particular link, I can then scroll down and see all of the different stops that the Route 13 can make. So there's several stops posted along that path of travel there. Up here in the beginning, there was a picture of the map. And this is interactive. So if you want to zoom in, you can see. Oh, and look, there's the bus. So this little icon there is where the current location of the bus is. So the ICAT system works with the GPS system that's on the bus. So those two communicate to bring you the information of the current location. As the bus travels along the way, that icon will move. So you can always, oh, there, it just got across Burlington Street. So that's how it's giving you those predictions. So Shanae and I are actually currently right here in this building here at the 855 South Dubuque. So this green dot is the closest bus stop to us. So this is going to be stop 7071. If I use the bar that's up here and type in 7071 and enter, the ICAT system will then respond to my ask and tell me that the Route 13 is about 20 minutes away from this stop. And then there's another bus coming in 77 minutes. So if you were to use that same stop ID via text or calling the ICAT system, you could also have that information. The next tab on the banner here is all the stops. So this goes on and on and on and on with all of the different stops that are in our community. You can actually click on these links again. So if you were curious about when the bus is coming to this particular stop here, so let's pick on Gilbert Street and Bowery Street. By clicking on that, it will then jump you to that specific stop number and when the buses are arriving there. The last tab is the map tab, and this is a kind of nice one because you can select all of the routes that you want to visualize. So let's pick on that example we did earlier when we were going from City High to West High. So if we click on this, the route that services City High, that's Route 2. You'll see Route 2 displays up on the map in brown. And then if we scroll down a little bit further, the route that goes to West High is going to be Route 10, So if I click on that one, there it is. Route 10 will then pop up. So I can see that I'm going to start on this brown route, Route 2, City Heights. We're probably right more in the middle there. And then ride that over to get to West High. So that's our ICAT system. Okay. Any questions about ICATs or the formal BONGO system? Okay. We're now going to transition and talk about Google Maps. Google Maps is one of the most user-friendly platforms out there for many, many reasons. And all of the transit information for our area is available on Google Maps. The difference between Google Maps and the ICAT system that we were just talking about is Google Maps runs on the scheduled time. So that means that the bus is supposed to arrive to Shanae and I's building in about 20 minutes now. And that's when it's scheduled to come. However, if there was a detour or an accident, the Google system wouldn't know that there was a delay because it doesn't use that GPS the way that the ICAT system does. However, it's a wonderful platform for trip planning and kind of planning in advance. So I personally like to use a combination of all three of these platforms. So let's take a look at some of the features on Google Maps. Okay. All right, can you guys see Google Maps up now? Okay, perfect. So let's type in the address that Shanae and I are at today, which is already in my search history, which is perfect. We are at 855 South Dubuque. So if I click on that, Google Maps will zoom in to that particular address. So there is our address, picture of our building with the red marker there. So let me zoom in a little bit closer here. So if you take a look, there is a blue square on the corner of our building, very similar to that green dot that we were looking at the last website. This blue dot is also a transit stop. So if I hover my mouse over that blue dot, it will show that that is a bus stop. So here you can find the same information, stop 7071 at Benton Street and Clinton Street that we saw on the last website. If you scroll down, you'll see that that's the Route 13 serviced by Iowa City Transit. If you click on See Departure Board, you'll see all of the times that the Route 13 is scheduled to arrive to stop 7071. You can also plan a trip. So let's say after this training, I want to go to the University of Iowa Hospital for an appointment. If I click on the direction arrow and type in UIHC, enter, the system will give me driving directions. Well, I actually want to take the bus. So let's see what it looks like to ride the bus over there. See if I can avoid that parking lot. The next icon over is the transit icon. If I switch over to that, the system will then give me the options for riding the bus over. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different options that I can select from. This first one tells me that it's about 18 minutes. Let's click on this one and see what it says. It provides me the instructions of leaving at 10:05 and getting to the bus stop, boarding that 7071 at 10:05. It gets me downtown by 10:12, so super quick ride. And from there, I'm going to transfer over to the Route 10 before I eventually get over to the hospital at 10:23. So a pretty quick trip for me. But my appointment's not until later on. So let's go back and do some adjusting there. The system's set up to think that you're ready to leave right away, but don't worry, you can change that. So as I mentioned, it's set up for leave now. So if I click on this arrow, I can scroll down and say I want to depart at, arrive by, or the very last available. Let's say my appointment's actually at 4 p.m. So I'm going to change this time here, say 4 p.m. Okay, so this one looks awesome. This is actually very similar to that earlier trip that we had selected, except for I'll get to the parking lot or the front of the building right at 3:53. So that works out nicely for me. So again, if I click on that, I can see the instructions for getting from my work office over to the hospital by 4 o'clock. Up here in the top, you can send this to your phone, post it on Facebook if you ever wanted to, or you can print the trip. So that is Google Maps. Any question about that system? You can also use that on your smartphone too. I was obviously doing the web-based platform, but that's also available on your smartphone too. Okay, we have one last topic to talk about, and that is the latest and greatest transit technology, which is called Transit. So Transit is an app that is only available on smartphones. So what's wonderful about this app is it does use that GPS system. So when you open the Transit app on your phone, it's going to know where you're at based on your own GPS of your smartphone. It also communicates with the GPS on the bus. So that means if the bus got delayed or had to take a detour, the Transit app is going to have that information. Unfortunately, you cannot use the Transit app on a web browser. So this is strictly for those that have smartphones. I am going to show you guys a video of how to use the Transit app here. Okay. And Shanae, can you confirm to me that the sound will play here once I get this rolling?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you. Okay.
Looking for the closest bus route and stop? Download the Transit app and catch a ride today. Transit is a mobile app that allows you to have real-time information for all of Johnson County's fixed route buses, Iowa City Transit, Coralville Transit, and CAMBus. Conveniently working with your phone's GPS, the Transit app shows the current location of buses, the stops closest to you, and the upcoming departure times. Here's how to use it. Download Transit from your App Store. When you open the app, the first screen you see shows the bus routes near you based on your current location. Take a closer look at a route by tapping on the route banner. Here you can see a route's path of travel and stops along the way, shown as dots. Pinch to zoom out to see the bus's current location, indicated by the bus icon. Click the X to get back to the front page of the app Now, let's plan a trip. Let's say you're currently in downtown Iowa City and would like to ride the bus to the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics for a doctor's appointment. Tap the green search bar labeled Where To, where it says Line or Destination. Type in UIHC. Select the best search result. In this case, UIHC 200 Hawkins Drive is where you want to go. Next, the Transit app provides you with options for completing your trip. Tap on the option to see more details. If you're ready to leave right away, select the green Go button. This feature will lead you through guided audio and visual directions for your journey. But let's say your appointment isn't until later this afternoon. Touch the red X to get back to the trip options. Tap on the Leave Now button and change your selection to Arrive By. Then, scroll the time to when you want to get there and select Done. Tap on the route that best meets your needs. After making your selection, you'll see the directions and the time at which you need to leave. Tap the bell icon to set a reminder for when it's time to head to the bus stop. Slide to select how early you want to be reminded, and tap Create Reminder. The reminder will push a notification to your phone when it's time to leave for your appointment. From here, tap Go and be on your way. Now you know the basic navigation and trip planning features of the Transit app. Other features you may want to check out include favoriting your most frequented routes and up-to-the-minute service alerts, such as detours or other notices that may impact your travel. Contact your transit system for more information, or connect with the Johnson County Mobility Coordinator for additional resources and videos.
Okay, so that is the Transit app in a nutshell. Any questions about that app or anything else we've discussed today? Okay, I think that's going to conclude our training for today. I do have back up on the screen the way to get in touch with me. And I will go ahead and end the recording. Stop.